Christopher McGowan.
What's
Look at
up,
you.
guys?
This is the best part of YouTube is we can highlight sexy beasts. Is beast
You
the
want
right
to
word?
I don't know.
do some peg pops?
What I was going to say to you, Chris, is you should know this, but you're supposed to put the light directly above you and make it dark in the room to really bring out the depth.
Cuts. Yeah.
Well, listen, the light is literally up here, up here. This is as good as it's gonna get, guys.
That's great. I mean, that's what locker rooms do so well, you know. Why is locker room lighting so good?
You have been on the podcast. You have been on the podcast many times, but we've never shown your face. So
yeah, this is the face.
Yes, the beard is coming in. So we wanted to get you on the podcast today because we do have a really cool segment where we reached out to a few of our the industry leaders, if you will, or some of our friends in the industry, and asked them to submit for us to review and just kind of talk about, you know, their best tip for training, something they've been working on that's innovative in the weight room, maybe a mindset kind of.
We left it open-ended.
Yeah, left it open-ended, and you know, even business. But we wanted to see what they've been working on and just bring it into the podcast and just have like an open forum, just kind of discuss what they.
Yeah, we're gonna do we picked 4 today in no specific order. I actually haven't. Have you listened to these?
No, I have.
Okay,
not.
I only listened to maybe the first 5 or 10 seconds. Just to make sure the audio came through okay.
Right.
So we have 4 of these, and we have reached out to more people. So I'm sure we'll continue this series.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we get more of those.
I did want to shout out Obi. It was his idea, and Joe D actually said it was a great idea.
Yeah, he's a great idea. I'm super smart.
Yeah. What do you expect from Obi?
See, I totally wish I could get that 20 seconds back
and not say you regret that.
Right. Not say that statement, but go ahead.
All right. So I am going to. Well, since you mentioned Joe.
Okay.
Let's start with Mr. DeFranco.
Yes.
What's up, Smitty? What's up, Obi? Joe D here, and this is my training tip for the Becoming Ronin audience. There are no mandatory exercises. Please get that into your head. Believe it. It is 100% true. We've been told when we first start training, you know, things like, you got to do the big 3. You got to barbell bench, squat, and deadlift. When you first start playing sports, they tell you got to power clean and do the Olympic lifts to become more explosive. I have 1,000,001 examples of these kind of mandatory exercises that are pushed on us, and none of them are true. While I do believe that we should all be incorporating the 6 foundational movement patterns into our programming, we should all be squatting, hinging, lunging, upper body pushing, upper body pulling, and incorporating some type of a carry or drag in our program. The specific exercise or exercises we choose for each of those foundational movement patterns should depend on our specific body type, your anthropometry, your limb length, the way you are built, also your current mobility and skill level is going to determine what exercise is best for you. So for example, if you're just someone who has really short arms, nothing you could do about that. But if you try to straight bar deadlift from the floor as your main hinge movement, it's probably not going to go well for you. You're not going to get the most out of that exercise because you're going to have a very hard time getting in a proper position, setting up properly, and our joint position will dictate muscular recruitment patterns. So if we're not in the proper position, we're not going to recruit the right muscles, and you're not going to get what you want to get out of that exercise. And unfortunately, what you probably will get is just a lot more aches and pains than muscle growth and strength gains. So please remember, don't let anyone tell you that there are any mandatory exercises. There are no mandatory exercises. Choose the specific exercises for each of the fundamental movement patterns that fit best for your specific body type, your mobility level, your skill level, and that's how you make gains for the long haul. Hope you guys found that tip helpful. Love the podcast, gentlemen, and I'll talk to you soon.
He's like a human version of AI.
Yeah.
So polished.
He's so good. He's so good.
Well, I'm glad we
never misses.
Never misses.
So good.
And you can see why Joe's a legend in the industry. And I mean, there's so much to unpack here. I wrote a couple bullet points, but what did you have on that?
I just feel like he is a pioneer in this industry. And it's kind of funny because he's always been a few years and a few steps ahead of the industry at all times. I mean, when you guys remember going back down to the Wyckoff Industrial Park, think of every commercial gym at that time. Right. No turf, no sleds, no chains, no bands. No one had heard of a tread sled. Right. And when you're thinking about football players, all you're thinking about is power cleans and bench press. And now he was a huge part of the influence. If you go into any commercial gym now, you see turf, you see sleds. It almost looks like, without them even knowing, maybe the effect that Joe DeFranco had on their facility design. He was part of that revolution. And I feel like similarly, he is part of that revolution now, where that around maybe even 5 years ago, even more recently than the gym transformation, everyone was benching, squatting, deadlifting. It was kind of funny too, because I'm in the personal training studio space, and you look at the Instagrams of a lot of these studios, and they're promoting 86-year-old women with a barbell on their back doing squats. And then with that CrossFit kind of feel, you have people that shouldn't be overhead squatting and people doing snatches. So I feel like that is probably one of the best things that any coach can take away from this episode. I don't know, because I haven't listened to the other ones. I'm sure they're good too, but that is such a good point. And if everyone followed that, you would have zero chance of not getting more out of your clients. Because the other side of that made me think of, while he was saying that, is gyms design the business model based off of what works best for the gym owner a lot of times, or the coach. And with that, you get the workouts of the day, you get the square hole, and you're hoping for clients to come in that fit through that square hole. And in reality, obviously we all know, and a lot of listeners know, like, you don't put a round peg through a square hole. And with Joe saying that there are no mandatory exercises, that should give everyone some thought, some pause in the way that they design their workouts. And, anyone that's been through the CPPS knows that we design workouts through movement patterns. Like he said, hey, just look at the 6 fundamental movement patterns and try to accomplish that. So, I mean, nothing more to say about that. That is brilliant.
What do you think, Chris? What'd you get out of it?
I totally agree with him. I feel like in today's age, coaches impose what they think is ideal for the client and don't actually meet the client where the client's at and take the client's body into account. You see it all the time. And especially right now in the fitness industry, everybody wants to optimize every single thing. And what's optimal for Smitty is not optimal for me, right? And what's optimal for Obi isn't optimal for me. So I think he's 100%. Like, they're really, if you look at the scope of things, there really is no optimization that's blanketed over everybody, right? And I feel like a lot of coaches forget that, and they don't meet their client specifically where they're at. And it does the client, puts the client in harm's way, or does a disservice to the client, because you're not necessarily optimizing where they're at and pushing them towards other things. You're just simply trying to fit them, like Obi said, a square peg in a round hole. So I totally agree.
Well, you have a lot of clients like online, right? So you run a fitness app, Iron Society. And I was curious, like, what do you think? Do you get a lot of questions about, like, if you program squats, and do you give them variations that maybe they could go to if they don't like the barbell? Like, how do you program for, like, different people? You have hundreds of people on this app. Like, how do you keep it unique?
So we try to meet them where they're at. That's the biggest thing. And seeing, like, they run through an assessment, seeing how their body moves. And then based off of how their body moves, if they have tight shoulders, tight hips, or they have any type of issue, we try to alleviate those issues. And then we also start them at the basic foundations of where they're currently at. And I can't stress that enough, because if I take anybody and I throw them in there and I have them squatting and their body they can't squat well, it's not helping them out. Like, they're going to hate the movement. And also another thing is, like, if a client finds a movement very, very good for them and they enjoy a movement, don't take that movement away from them, because now you're taking the fun out of what they're actually trying to accomplish, right? So I can't stress enough, meeting the client where they're at is primary here. And I'm sure and I know OB and Smitty, you guys are on board with that. And just really driving home the foundation movement patterns and really allowing them to kind of hone their own in that, right? And seeing what they like, what they don't like, running them through, like getting videos of their lifts and seeing what type of issues they're having. If they're having lower back issues, alleviating that lower back issue, maybe changing the exercise to be more conducive to their body. So I always tell every client that comes in, everything is ever flowing. If there's an issue that you have, we address the issue and we make changes. So it's never going to be like concrete. There's plenty of times where we're in the middle of a block and I change the entire programming just because of the fact that they're running into those issues, right? So I find it, instead of allowing, because you have some coaches that'll literally push them through the block just because they're in that block and they don't want to make the changes. We can make real-time changes. And I think that's important, because at the end of the day, the client's coming to you for results. They're coming to you to help them. And if you're not doing that, you're doing them a disservice.
Well, I do have a lot of bullet points here that I wrote down when Joe was talking, but we see it a lot in our app too on Train Heroic. We have Team Forever Strong. So we'll get like a lot of questions from people where they'll say, we might program barbell squats. They might say, well, that hurts my low back. What do I do? And we'll often, regress it as little as possible, maybe move them to like a box squat and then see how they tolerate that. But again, Joe was brilliant in stating that loaded movement patterns, and we've talked about this so many times, Obi and I, loaded movement patterns form the foundation of strength training, right? So all these movements that we're talking about, like squats and hinging and pressing and all these things, we're basically creating exercises to match these movement patterns. And these exercises can vary so much in how we load them, tempo, volume, all these different things. So there's all these parameters around these fundamental movement patterns, and we're trying to find an exercise that does not cause pain, that matches that fundamental movement. Because when you're creating these programs, you're really finding the nuance between these movement patterns and trying to balance them. The other thing I wanted to say was, Chris was like, well, you got to meet them where they're at. And many coaches just program like, the big barbell lifts. Well, guess what? Not all coaches have the experience or knowledge to go outside of the big three barbell lifts, right? So it's really, to improve your service, you have to continuously improve your knowledge around strength training. And that's where these, good coaches are always seeking to better themselves. And, if you're someone that doesn't know anything outside of barbell bench, squat, deadlift, military press, you need to start getting out and getting more information and getting more experience with more clients to figure out all these nuances so that you can stick and move. And that's really a statement on, I wrote this down too, is auto-regulation, right? What we're really talking about when Joe said that there's no mandatory exercises, he's really talking about making a change on the fly so that the training effect can get done in the workout, and we cause no pain and we cause no continuing like injury. We're not trying to injure anyone. We're trying to load these patterns. So auto-regulation is really the sort of what a good coach has the ability to do, just because of all the information they have, all the experience they have. So Joe's one example was doing deadlifts and not pulling off the floor. Well, we know that when we shorten the range of motion, we can really get into more of a leveraged position, especially for the deadlift, because we know the deadlift is really one of those really tough exercises to integrate, because there's zero potential in the bar. We've talked about this at the CPPS, where the deadlift is the only big barbell lift where you're starting on the upstroke. You don't start the bench off your chest. You don't start the squat like in the hole. I mean, there's variations where you can do pin press and all that stuff. We're speaking specifically of the deadlift, where you're pulling on that concentric phase, right? All the other barbell lifts, we're doing that downstroke, or we're loading elastic energy, and we're doing like a reactive movement where we're starting with the eccentric. So, so his example was, well, let me shorten the range of motion, puts you in a more leveraged position or advantageous position for your leverage specific to your individual leverage. He mentioned limb length and all that stuff. And you can see why his answer is so sophisticated. But I also wanted to say that Joe said, well, if you can't do a lift, it's a mobility or skill issue. I just wanted to add in a weakness, right? So we talk about Dave Tate all the time. Dave Tate always says that if a movement looks bad, it's a skill. Joe said skill. We'll say technique.
Sure.
A restriction or a weakness. So those three things contribute to something not looking good. And then you have to auto-regulate. You have to make a change. The last thing I wanted to say was Joe talked about your leverage really drives your potential for a lift. So your limb lengths and how you set up and your position. And he mentioned joint angle specificity. I just wanted to also make a note that joint angle specificity is not only important to understand for strength training, it's also important to understand for speed and strength, or speed and power. So speed and power and strength are joint angle specific. So specific to the joint angles you're training. So that's, we're talking about these high level concepts, but I'm just giving you a more expansive idea, or just something that you can look up greater detail specific to Joe was talking about strength training, but all these other concepts like joint angle specificity, auto-regulation, range of motion, all these things kind of spill over into other aspects of athletic development.
Well, I think the best thing you said there was that you should continue your education so that you have regressions and progressions in your toolbox. And I once heard a quote, I'm not sure where I heard it, but it said something about the difference between a hobbyist and a professional is how quickly you can solve problems. And, like I'll fix my vehicles, or like I fixed my wife's wheel bearing like last spring. And not only did it take me 8 hours compared to 45 minutes, but I ran into so many issues. And not only did I not have the tools, I'm putting myself in dangerous positions because I'm using the wrong tools.
Right.
Cursing every single thing that I possibly can.
You're under the vehicle doing a leg press, holding it up without the jacks. I have no jacks.
Literally, I had a spring. This is a real story. I had a spring. I was about to finish the job, and a spring from the e-brake assembly shot 20 yards across the driveway. And my wife, I was calling in neighbors, friggin', I was using my drone, everything I could to try to find this spring. And point being is, like, a professional would have not only had the tools, the patience, the ability to figure that out a lot quicker, but it would have saved a tremendous amount of time.
Absolutely.
And so I like that. And then the other thing that I just wanted to mention is the duality of what we're talking about is I don't want someone to walk away thinking that what they're hearing is that you don't have to squat, or you shouldn't take someone that is elderly and squat them, because I think what the ultimate lesson out of this for me, and something I've learned through my training career, is that you have to find ways to progress them to the things that they can't do now as well, because that's ultimately what's opening up their overall ability, right? As you introduce more joint ranges of motion and some variety into the training, that is going to progress them back into things they can't do now. So while there are no mandatory exercises, like Joe and all of us are agreeing, I do think that doesn't give you the excuse to not work towards the movements that you can't do now.
Well, Dr. Quinn Hennock, I actually quote him in the Ageless Athlete certification. He talks about this idea of the top-down training progression. And basically it means that what Obi was talking about, where the ultimate goal of strength training is to get you proficiency and allow you to build a foundation toward a movement that you can't do now, but hopefully you can do with good position and good range of motion in the future. And Dr. Hennock's idea of this top-down training progression is regress the movement as little as possible, so it still looks like the movement you want, right? And see how that looks. And if that doesn't look good, we regress it just a little bit more. But you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't want to, you can't do squats, so we're going to go to leg press, right? You want to think about moving toward a safer or a different loaded pattern, the same pattern of the target lift that they can't do right now, but still integrate that into the movement. or still integrate that into their workout. So the idea is, let's say we're doing squats. The first regression could be, well, it doesn't look good today. Let me take some of the load away. Right. So that could be like a simple regression where we're still doing the pattern, but the load gets taken away. That doesn't look good. Well, let me change the range of motion. That doesn't look good. Let's change where we load it. Right. It might go from a back squat to a Zercher squat. It might go from a Zercher squat to a goblet squat. We're still doing the pattern, but we're just changing these nuances just a little bit, but the pattern is still the same. So we're just taking a step back. But to Obi's point, the goal is with all strength training is to build a strength foundation and improve movement quality. And that movement quality will allow you to hit any of these strength training movement patterns that we're talking about with good technique.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next.
And I feel one more thing.
No, you're done, Chris. Shut your mouth. Go ahead.
And I feel like, especially with the younger generation and the lifters that are coming up, they watch a lot of YouTube, a lot of Instagram, a lot of TikTok, and they see these guys that are far more advanced than them doing these movements that they say that are optimized for back development, optimized for chest development, and they don't have the basics down, and that puts them at a disservice. I see it all the time in the gym. I see it all the time on the internet, and just if they had a coach that would regress them to the point to actually optimizing themselves personally, they would get a lot more out of it instead of just following blindly somebody that's far more advanced than them doing these advanced movements. And it's tough to relay that, obviously, because that's not something that, gets eyeballs by saying, hey guys, we're going to do box squats instead of squats today because, the squat doesn't look right. That doesn't ever get eyeballs. So, I feel like it's so important.
Great point.
So important.
Yeah. Well, a lot of good coaches are fighting against the algorithm. There's an effect that social media has. We've talked about that a lot with, fitness, but I 100% agree. Going to move on to
yes, sir,
Mr. Sean Hayes.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Coach Sean Hayes. I'm here to help out my main man, Smitty Diesel, for his Ronin podcast, 10 tips from 10 coaches. I think it's a great idea. I think that the tip that I'm about to share, I don't think that this is anything groundbreaking. I don't think it's anything like super innovative, but I think that it provides a lot of value, and it's helped me over the last 8 to 10 years of my own training, and really can help out, so hopefully some of your listeners out there, whether they train athletes, whether they are just weekend warriors and just looking for tips for themselves. My tip is I always want to leave the weight room better than when I entered the weight room. And, that might not seem super groundbreaking or super innovative or super flashy, but if you can keep in mind that tip and accomplish that each time you get a workout in, man, I really feel like over the long term, it's going to provide dividends, and it's going to be so helpful for you in the back end of everything, because that is what is going to help you train forever. And when we're talking about, general population, we don't have a season. We're training 12 months of the year. I mean, we're always going, there's not a season for us, and longevity is key. Right. And that tip, and how does that happen? How do I make sure that happens? Well, I want to make sure that I do mobility. I want to make sure that I do leave extra reps in the tank. I want to make sure I work on my postural muscles and my upper back and my glutes and make sure I'm leaving the weight room in a good posture. And I want to make sure I don't overdo it. I don't want to be laying in a pool of my own sweat and looking up at the ceiling like, oh man, like that to me, like that's not a sign of a good workout. Like leaving the workout, high-fiving, like feeling good, like, in a good mood, man, like if I can do that consistently 3 to 4 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week, 3 or 4 weeks a month, 12 months of the year, man, I'm making some gains over the long run. That is a huge tip for me personally. I want to leave the weight room better than when I walked in. And that is a tip that's helped me over the years. It's helped me in my personal training. It's helped me in my training the athletes I work with, whether that's in the WWE, whether that's in the XFL, whether that was in college football, the NFL. Man, get your athletes, get yourself leaving that weight room feeling good, dapping it up. Hey man, great workout. All right, see you next time. That's gonna make you want to come back to the weight room each and every session. Again, no off season for us, man. We're doing this 12 months of the year. Got to feel good. That's my tip. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope it helps you guys out. And thank you enough. I can't thank you enough, Smitty, for everything that you've done for me and all your listeners out there. Keep rocking, fellas.
He's an awesome dude. I love his energy. And the most important thing that he said Smitty's podcast, Becoming Ronin. He didn't mention your name. It was all about me. Thank you, Smitty. Goodness. Yeah, I hope everybody caught that. But
well, it's funny because no one even knows who you are because I cut all your parts out.
Yeah, that's smart.
So I mean,
what do you think of that?
First thing I thought he was saying was like leave the weight room better, like clean up the weight room. I was like,
I did too. I did too.
As a gym owner, I'm like, I can get behind this.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But I will say this is very in tune with the conversation we were just having with our jiu-jitsu coach today when we were leaving. Is that, you know, like Sean says, this isn't groundbreaking, but it's funny because you can't neglect the obvious. As you know, you can't assume that people actually think about that, which is funny. But sometimes if you're just thinking about, if you're getting caught up in the science of the workout and the most optimum workout that you can do, you're going to get duped into thinking that that's the best thing for you at that moment. Right? Because there are times where we go into jiu-jitsu and, you know, I've been training for 5 years now. And at that time in my career, maybe let's say some of the more fundamental stuff you might say might not be optimum for me to train on, when it just so happens that I learned just one tiny detail that was the perfect puzzle piece that was missing from my game that was right for me at that time. Right. And it's very similar with working out because you know, as coaches, we could all design the Mona Lisa of programs and say, hey, this has every energy system. This has your 180 minutes of zone 2 cardio. This has 5 to 10 sets of, 10 reps per muscle group. And we could really get down deep into the science of designing a program. But we all know that the best program in general is not the best program for each individual, kind of like Chris was saying with his online training. And, by Sean saying make getting better each session the goal, I think that automatically allows you to tie into Joe DeFranco's point that there are no mandatory exercises while there are no mandatory workouts, right? If you come in, this goes back to what you're saying with auto-regulating too. If you go in the gym and you're just absolutely smoked, you know, the bar just doesn't feel good, the weights are heavy, make sure you are flexible enough and you have enough grace to give yourself the flexibility to do what feels good that day so that A, you don't get injured, B, you get a little bit better at whatever you can accomplish that day, and C, I love his point about being excited to come back to the weight room. So spoken like a true coach, Sean's now at the XFL, right?
Yeah.
Prior, what was he? Oh, WWE.
Yeah. And before that is with the Texans. When he came through CPPS, he's with the Texans and Brian Cushing and all those guys. And then he transitioned to WWE, and now he's with XFL.
So that's a guy, training the people that people in the gyms are aspiring to train like. So take it from that guy.
Yeah. I love his energy too.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. Honestly, personal story, I wish that I would have taken mobility far more serious when I first started. I didn't really take it serious until I met Smitty. But that's not.
You saw what happens when you neglect
it. I took one look at Smitty. I was like, I don't want to look like that guy. So let me start taking it serious. No, but he's 100% correct.
Cut him off.
You're like, why do Smitty's legs move more out to the side when he walks than straight forward?
Is that Frankenstein walking?
No, but yeah, I think it's very important. It's very important. But I do love I will say this. I do love those workouts where it's like you're laying on the floor and you're like, wow, that was intense. I do love those workouts, and those are far and few between. And as I age, they're definitely more and more far and few between. As Smitty told me when I was younger that would happen, but we don't want to give him too much credit here.
Well, so you can give me all the credit you want because, anyway, but your story is very common because you're a high level athlete, right? And then you got injured, right? And you went from someone who's very athletic and mobile and can move well, very explosive, but that knee injury, right, created this long, many year, diminishing of your movement potential, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that you're trying to keep going and to maintain, right? So,
can
you tell us a little bit about your story?
So yeah, I blew my knee out my final year of high school, and basically all the scholarships went away. I ended up going to a Division II school in Kansas. Blew my knee out there, lost my scholarship, got sent back to a junior college, and had another knee surgery. And then I finally got back after about a year. I got back and I was in the gym dunking the ball, came down, fractured my femur, fractured the casing off my femur. Now I have degenerative bone disease in my knee. So like it feels good some days. Some days I have to literally just like overly warm up, like 30 minutes of my workout will just actually be just trying to get the knee to cooperate with me. And then I can go into my main lifts. So like right now my workout has changed totally. Usually I would start with barbell squat. Now I start with like just warming the knee up, getting my hamstrings ready to go, getting my glutes ready to go. And then I go into my lifts to focus on my quads after everything's warmed up. But no, it's changed dramatically over the years. And through that process, I've learned a whole lot, right? Before, obviously, when I first got into lifting, I was like, oh, Ronnie Coleman. So I used to go in the gym and try Ronnie Coleman's workout and leave the gym absolutely obliterated. It'd take 3 or 4 days before I would ever even feel normal again, let alone good to work out. So yeah, it's been a process. And through that process, I wouldn't change it for the world because I learned a lot through that. And I feel like that's important to learn from the things that you go through and the issues that you go through, so that way you can relay it to clients better, obviously. But yeah, no, it's been a long road with my knee, and still some days it hurts, but some days I'm like, just got to push through it and get the work done at the end of the day.
Well, to your credit, I do know that you have full range of motion on your squat. You still, there's nothing that, there's no pattern that you can't do. I know that because of your diligence with your warm-ups and your movement, you still have a full range, and you have very strong lower body. So that's great. I did want to mention that Obi said something so fantastic, that you have grace enough to understand, that the workout might not be the workout you have on paper. I say this all the time, like 90% of the time you write down this workout, and when you go into the gym, it changes, right? So it's not, you very rarely end up doing what's on the paper.
And I just want to jump in, because we've made this point before, but it bears repeating. That's exactly why you can tell if a coach has actually done the program they've written. Because there's, how many programs have you done where you're like, there's no way any human being has ever gone through this program?
Well, you're going to sidetrack me into the cookie cutter, 5 sets of 10,
not
programs
to sidetrack the conversation, but I just wanted to make that
right.
point.
So Obi made a great point about having the grace to change the workout, and maybe the workout becomes a complete recovery session. You do the warm up a few times, and that's what the workout is. And to Chris's point, I would, throw it out there that the best coaches I've ever seen with programming are ones that have gone through an injury. They've gotten injured, they've recovered, and they're back to training, and maybe they've gotten injured again. But all these different injuries provided a huge expansion in a coach's understanding of movement, his understanding of training, and it expands his arsenal for restoring movement quality, expands his arsenal for strength training movements that are maybe more based around joint friendly longevity. So an injury can be a blessing in disguise. I also just wanted to make a note on what Sean said, leave the gym better than what you found it. And a lot of that is comes down to discipline too, right? Many times I can't tell you how many times that I felt run down. I didn't want to go to the gym, and I went to the gym, and it like turned into like this great training session when I'm dragging ass trying to get to the gym, and I feel like it's not even going to be a good workout, and it turns out to be like this great training session. And I think that just all comes back to discipline. You have the ability to train, get your butt to the gym, get your butt to jiu-jitsu, go out for a walk. All these things, you have to have discipline where you're doing some type of movement or training your body every single day. And you don't miss because you don't feel good, right? So, and if you do miss, you miss the opportunity, like Sean says, to feel good, right? You might be depressed, fail forward, and you might be feeling depressed, stuck in a rut. Kids are driving you crazy. Work is, crushing you. But that one single hour of meditation during the day can completely change your mindset. It'll renew your body or renew your mind to get ready and attack the day tomorrow, right? So, but
it's
if
the
you
paradox
skip it,
of life, oftentimes, the exact thing you want to avoid the most is going to bring you the most peace. Whether it's
the obstacle is the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. The last point I wanted to make, because it just popped in my head, I don't know if this has been said anywhere, but progress is not always linear, right? But sometimes it's exponential, and what I mean by that is with your training, there might be good days and bad days, or days when you hit a PR, or days when you're just, regressing and doing a recovery. But sometimes just to have the discipline to get to the gym, you'll have the days when Chris was talking about where you're just falling on the floor just because everything felt so good and you're able to just push the gas further and just have a really hard training session. So sometimes progress is not linear, but sometimes it's exponential.
Let's see who we have. Dan Goodman from Varsity House.
So one tip, considering I was given the open angle at talking about business as it pertains to training, that's the angle I'm going to take. So first and foremost, to be considered as one of the participants with a true who's who of the industry is something that I have to thank the guys for. Obi and Smitty, thank you very much for the opportunity to do this and for my contribution. And, I'm sitting down, shared a couple emails back and forth about the direction to take. And I looked at the people contributing on this podcast, and I tried to figure out one commonality from, the fitness influencers to the OG coaches, to gym owners, and everyone in between, regardless of what everybody's selling. And the one commonality is that everybody in this industry is going to lose clients. And no matter how good your training is, no matter how many accreditations you have, no matter how many celebrities you've coached, or it doesn't matter. The point is that attrition will always be present because life happens for people in the sports performance realm, GPP, people move on, people look to find other modalities of training. And, that's something that I never accounted for as a fitness professional or gym owner. I was like, we get people here and they'll stay forever. And at this point, with 2 gyms and over 500 clients and soon to be a 3rd gym, the number one thing that we focus on is, hey, what are we doing to get new members, and what are we doing to keep our current members by exceeding the expectation? And we measure attrition. We try to keep below 5% month over month. And the quick equation is, for anybody that has 100 clients, if you're an industry best, you're going to lose 3%, maybe 2% a month. That's per month. So if you have 100, let's say that's 3%, you're losing 3 people a month. That's 36 people per year, right? So if you want to maintain 100, you have to add at least 36 new people in this upcoming year. So the biggest thing, And something that not enough fitness professionals keep in mind is you have to play offense. You have to incentivize the referral. You have to keep a positive frame of mind when people leave so that the door is open for reactivations. You must document the realness and social proof, the people that are having a great training experience with you. Testimonials and Google reviews, those are things that people need to see frequently. It takes 7, 8, 9 points of contact for somebody in your community to say, you know what? It's time for me to check out what's happening at XYZ gym. So don't give up on it. Don't give up on that process. But also knowing the statistic of attrition, that 3 to 5% of your clientele will leave every single month, regardless of how successful you've been as a coach, is a very powerful number. And progress always starts with the truth. So if you're in the training business, understand that you're never going to outrun that number. And the only way to do so is by marketing and documenting the awesome success stories that are happening in your four walls every single day. Don't overthink the process. Just make sure people can see that you have an active place, that people have fun and get results at. All right. Thanks again for allowing me to be on the show, fellas, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Wow. First off, I want to say I love that he lives the life of a true gym owner, where he's like, clearly there's like dogs barking and he's clearly like walking. Right. Like that makes me feel a little less crazy. But yeah, it's the law of entropy, right? Yeah. I mean, there's no such thing in this industry as passive income, right? The more you neglect your business, bad things go from bad to worse, right? It just is this steady decline. And similarly, the more you focus on your front door with marketing and you take away your attention from the client experience, the more people leave out the back door. And we've observed this relationship very well. It's very well observed with our business because we, like many of the listeners and gym owners and trainers, wear a lot of hats, right? So you only have so much time and effort. And we've had this conversation with marketing, people that have helped us with marketing that we've hired to help and we've brought in to own our marketing. And one of the things that they do is they're asking like, well, why aren't you doing Yelp reviews? And why aren't you doing, more of this, and this? It's like, well, thanks for asking, but we're running a gym, and we've really kept our priority on the client experience simply because we believe the best marketing is the client experience. And like he's saying, you got to go on offense, and sitting back and waiting for clients to come in the door is a recipe for a failing business. And not only do you have to stay ahead of the attrition rate, you have to stay ahead of inflation, you have to stay ahead of job performance raises and things like that. And so I guess my point in that is, not only do I agree with it, and I think it's a brilliant point that no one talks about, I really appreciate him bringing that up because there is a draw to starting a business. And if all of these things were laid out in front of you, there would be a lot more employees and less business owners. And people have to learn that lesson the hard way. But I just actually had almost the exact same conversation with Corey, the fitness director in Albany today, about marketing. Was I telling you this?
No.
Literally on the way from jiu-jitsu to the studio, I had a call with Corey about the marketing meeting today. And we really settled on that exact thing where Corey and I are not Instagram people, right? I think everyone kind of goes through this where like you just get burnt out on Instagram and you're constantly putting this effort into what you feel isn't really, there's no return on it. It's very hard to realize the benefits of putting yourself out there.
Right.
And because it's unknown. I mean, you might have a video that does really well, but it's just hard to see the effect.
Right.
And so with that, you get a lot of burnout. Corey and I both experienced that. We're like, we'll lay out a marketing calendar, and then 3 months later, it's like we're not hitting deadlines, and we feel like it's intrusive on our clients' workouts. And, we don't want to just put information out there just to put it out there. But today was a good conversation because, just like Dan said, highlight the the success stories that are going on within your own four walls. So today we settled on, hey, instead of putting out like 4 fitness tips from trainers that, like do 10,000 steps and drink a gallon of water, like all the internet is full of that stuff. We decided, let's do something that's meaningful to us that we can get behind. Every single client of ours has something worth celebrating. Let's pick one of them for each week, and that's our marketing calendar. Right? Because when you involve your clients, they're invested.
Absolutely.
Right? And involving them on the social media, involving them even in the decisions of everything from the training down to the potlucks that you run in the client outings. And that to us is
charity events.
Yeah. We do a ton of that stuff. And that's the stuff that we enjoy doing. When we enjoy it, it turns out
you get energy from it.
It's a much better event. The clients are way more excited to participate. We put them on the Instagram and celebrate them because they're the star of the show, not us.
Absolutely.
How many training studios have, you only see the trainers half the time with their shirt off on the, I didn't mean to look at you, Chris, but
I said
half the time with their shirts off. And, they're kind of stealing the show. So that's a brilliant point. It's kind of, fortuitous. Is that the right word? It's kind of serendipitous for him to say that on the same day that I just had, come to that conclusion on marketing.
That's fantastic. I want to give a shout out to Dan as well, just because he has a premier athletic performance center down there called Varsity House in New Jersey.
Gym,
beautiful gym. And he's hosted the CPPS. So I want to give a shout out to Dan and, really appreciate you submitting this. But I did want to piggyback on what you said, Obi, and ask you, how often do you solicit testimonials from your clients?
Well, I can't say based off of what we're doing now, because we're making more of a push for that. Based off of the advice of these marketing people that come in and help us. But, a lot of our marketing has been way more organic. So maybe one a month, but really that speaks more to the disservice we're doing because we have way more opportunities for testimonials, and I think if we reframe it and it's something that we're using to celebrate them, I can get more behind it. But it always felt disingenuous to be like, hey, you've trained with us for 2 years and we've developed this relationship. Now, write how good we are and let's put that on the website.
I think that the counter argument would be that, that they want to provide something for you because to Dan's point, he said incentivize referral. Well, they don't know that you need that. They don't know that it's beneficial.
Oh, are you talking about referrals? I thought you said testimonials.
I meant testimonials.
Okay.
Incentivize testimonials just because you're doing something that's benefiting them. And they, it's that law of reciprocity. I think that if you let them know that this would benefit you, I think that you would get those more. But again, like many times when trainers don't ask for testimonials, the client doesn't know that, that would be beneficial.
It's the same thing with referrals.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with testimonials, and we have them on our website and our Instagram and things. But to me, it's the way we go about doing it that needs to be reflective of the true meaning and mission statement of our business. And
I think, what feels good to you, not like, forced.
Exactly. Yeah. And that to me is where this is not at all directed towards anything Dan said. I just think that a lot of times people are very, they show their cards in their marketing, right? And to me, I want my business to highlight the people that lead to our success, which is the clients and the trainers and things like that. And, sometimes I don't want to breach the friendship that we've developed along the way because it's a tight-knit community, and I don't want it to feel like I've taken a step out of that relationship and become a marketer, and I totally get it. We do it because I can rationalize why that can make an impact on someone else's life.
Right.
But I also feel like you have to be careful.
Yeah. That's interesting because I never thought about that. So many times trainers at a facility or even online trainers will take their clients and celebrate them on social media, like Facebook. They'll do, client of the month or, so-and-so had the great transformation. But to your point, the client might feel uncomfortable being out there on. So a lot of them do. I never really thought about that aspect.
Not only that, you're like, they went from this body weight to this body. You're talking about their body. It's really like a, imagine going to a psychologist and be like, can we talk about your mental issues and then what I helped you do? And it just feels a little bit disingenuous because, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't fault anyone for feeling like a little bit insecure about putting themselves out there like that. These aren't influencers. They're just, moms and, business owners and people just trying to be healthier. And so we respect that. And we've had plenty of people that we've asked that just didn't feel comfortable about it. And, but to your, there's a certain percentage that are more than happy to do whatever they can to help us.
Sure.
And I totally get that. I just wanted to make that point because not making excuses, that's just where we've been with our, our marketing. We just feel like, the Instagram and things like that should be used to
as celebration,
and less begging.
I
just feel like so many people, even with the testimonials, will put that out there and be like, sign up for our, whatever.
Yeah.
So to piggyback off of that, what I like to do is anybody that comes to me, I always, because obviously since I work online, a lot of it's going to be testimonials, and we do have a massive amount of testimonials. But I tell everybody off the rip as soon as I get them on the phone. I'm like, listen, everything that we discuss, everything that we do here is always going to be confidential on my end. All the testimonials that you see I ask for explicit consent to use those. And through that, I feel like the client's a lot more open with me about the issues that they have because everything's always going to be confidential. And two, if you're going to ask for a testimonial, always ask when they're at their highest, when they have this revolutionary breakthrough and they're talking to you about that breakthrough. Oftentimes, it doesn't necessarily have to be them sitting down and writing something. It can just simply be messages back and forth and using that message that they wrote you, like, oh, I've lost 15 pounds. I actually fit in the jeans that I wore in high school. I can't even believe this. And that right there is a better testimonial than them sitting down and writing this. Oh, Chris helped me do this, and because it incites emotion. And usually, when people are going to sign up, you have to be able to incite emotion with your ads, with your testimonials, to see that they can actually do it themselves. Also, they have to see themselves in that client's shoes or see themselves succeeding before they even sign up. Now, I had this quote a long time ago. I forget the name of the coach that said it, but it's always stuck with me. It's when somebody decides that they need a coach or need to sign up for a gym, they don't know what's the best gym. They have no clue. They're going to sign up with what they know, who they know is working out, or what they know best in their area. And this is why, like, getting out, especially online, I'll speak from the online perspective because that's what I primarily do. It does take about 8 to 9 times for somebody to see your stuff before they'll actually click. And when they click, it needs to be personal in a manner to where they feel like they can fit in. If they don't feel like they can fit in, they can go down the street and sign up for a gym and do their own thing. They can watch YouTube videos. And when you do get them on the phone and you do talk to them, you need to make sure that you're relaying the messages. Like I always say to people, like, why aren't you where you want to be at? And then they'll give a couple of excuses. I'm like, well, you could look up on YouTube videos of working out. Like, why haven't you done that? And by simply just putting that out there, what you're also doing is you're building rapport because you're not necessarily hard selling them. I never really want to hard sell anybody to come and work with me. I want them to feel like they want to be here, because if they want to be here, they're tied into it a lot more than just simply just signing up for a simple program. And like what Obi does, Obi, you do this great with your gym. It's a family, and that's what you want. You want that family atmosphere, and through that family atmosphere, they're going to get results. They're going to feel like they belong. They're going to feel comfortable, conveying in you issues that they have, and it can take off exponentially. Their friends, and when their friends ask them, "Girl, what have you been doing?" Oh, I work with Obi. So I think that's very important. Not hard selling them. And then also another note that I have is as far as client attrition, keeping those clients, I always say that I want my stuff to be so good, offer so much information that if they do leave and they sign up with somebody else, they're going to miss me. Yeah. Now, And I think that's very important because a lot of coaches, they don't put a lot of effort into keeping their clients, and they don't offer them the information that the clients are looking for, and they go off and they search for it elsewhere, and through that they get tied up with somebody else, and then they're like, oh well, I'll sign up with Becky's coach because Becky's getting results over there and she's getting all this cool information too. So I always say that with all of my clients, is like, I want to meet their needs so well that if they leave me, they miss me. So that's all I really had on that. Like, obviously, a lot of marketing goes, there's so many ways to skin a cat, right? So marketing is great. Getting out there and being present on social media is great. Offering a great, compelling offer, and then also delivering on that is probably the best thing you can do, because they're going to talk to their friends. When they start getting results, they're going to talk to their friends. From bodybuilding, winning to stay-at-home moms, all of the entire gambit. If you're getting results, the results are what matters most. They're going to talk to their friends, and people are going to sign up with you because they see the progress that people are making with you. So with Iron Society, we're bringing on coaches, and that's what we're going to do. Is we're literally, I don't want to be in the limelight of everybody wanting to work with me. I want coaches, and very competent coaches, to coach people and allow them to hone and build themselves within the programming that we offer. So, but no, everything you said is spot on. Everything Dan said is spot on as well.
Yeah. What'd you tell me the other day about the difference between getting a new client or keeping an existing client? Wasn't there?
Yeah, it's like 3 times more expensive to get a new client than it is to keep a new one. But that to me is like the shame in the marketing world, is that everyone looks at clients like X's and O's and numbers on a balance sheet. Right. And my point in saying all of that was, as a small team, I think the priority should be, when Dan says go on the offensive, to me, that means pour everything you possibly can into caring for that client. If you have one client, just make that client be like, this guy's too much. Like, he's doing too much. Like, he's sending me grocery lists. He's helping me out on Train Heroic with low back protocols because I told him that my low back hurts. And, he's just piling all these things on. And when you're small, you have the ability and the flexibility and the agility as a business to do that. And that's what keeps flooding the doors, the front door, and preventing people from leaving out the back door, in my experience. So I think, don't listen to me. I'm not a marketing expert. I'm just speaking from my own experience. And I have gone through a lot of marketing programs, like, I won't name any names, but I've spent money and time going through those marketing programs. So I know exactly what people are saying about marketing. And I agree with a lot of it. I just feel like if you're a small team, if you're a trainer, you're a contractor, you're working out of other gyms, I just feel like the best marketing is pouring your heart and soul into developing a relationship with that client, as if that's your mom standing in front of you, doing everything you can, not being like, oh, hour's up, I got to go. And they're, leaving them high and dry, or, just go above and beyond. You and Joe, obviously, and I'm sure you do this, Chris, you guys are always over delivering that, there's been this huge shift in marketing to be like, you're worth more money, don't do anything for free. Everything is a funnel, like, you give things away for free, get their email. And it's just like this numbers game. And it just feels disingenuous to me. If I get 10% less clients each year, because of my attitude, so be it. But I'm having a blast. Like, my clients, the reason why I still do training to this day, while I don't necessarily have to, I have really great coaches who I could walk away from the gym and know that my clients are being handled in the best way possible. I still go in every day because it once we took that attitude, the gym has been in a better place than it ever has been. So that to me is my closing note on Dan's point.
Well, I want to say to that, yes, because obviously I do a lot of email marketing and things like that as well. The way that I go about it is I want it to be very personable. Right. I want to show people, like, I tell all of my clients that I'm like an open book to them. And through that, you build rapport with that person. Like, they get to know you better. I feel like a lot of times a lot of coaches get so caught up in the social media that they need to be somebody else to get clients. And when they do that, it comes off as very fake. Like, we're all humans. We all have flaws. We all have issues that we personally deal with. And being open about even the issues that I've dealt in the past, like a lot of my marketing, I'll talk about the issues that I've dealt, and this is how I've overcome these issues, and this is what has helped me progress as a person. And that comes across a lot better than just writing, 10 tips to lose weight, and then drink more water, walk, take 1,000 steps a day. That's good and all, but at the end of the day, people want to feel connected. And if you can deliver on a massive scale that connection, the sky's the limit when it comes to developing those relationships and getting people in the doors or getting people to sign up with you.
Yeah, 100%.
I was just going to make a final point about OB and marketing that, I can completely understand your point, because even though you've done a lot of marketing research and you've signed up for all these programs, if it doesn't feel authentic to you, it's going to come across as phony, and it's not going to be something that's sustainable, right? So moving to something where you're focusing on the client, it feels good to you, feels good for them, and you're creating this community atmosphere. I think that's the way to go. The last thing I wanted to say was, unfortunately, I'm an old man, right? I started 25 years ago.
It's better than the alternative.
That's
made it this far.
Well, what I'm saying is that you mentioned like over delivering. That's just how we do it. Old school guys, we created these relationships. And I've talked about this before, where I used to go to seminar, like everything's online now, but I used to physically drive to seminars like every weekend. My wife can attest to it. And face to face, shaking hands, meeting people. And I had these relationships even to this day, like with all these people in the industry, just because I've met them many, many times at seminars and conferences. And old school guys, they just over deliver, and we're connected. And this is before social media, even before YouTube, like we were doing this stuff. So the age of social media, to Chris's point, like you create these social media stars, right? And they have these personas, but many times you meet them in person, they're completely different. But I think if you're going to have longevity, and I've certainly been 25 years in, I'm still going. The longevity comes from building these connections. It comes from being authentic to yourself. It comes from engaging in activities for your business that feel good to you and feel authentic to you. So, but it also comes from doing what you say you're going to do and doing it well, and showing up when you say you're going to show up. So be authentic, and your character should, be revealed in your actions. And I think that, the three guys here can attest to that. So
yeah. And also, with new coaches coming onto the scene, they're always, I want more, I need more clients. I need more clients. And like Obi said, focus on the clients that you have and over delivering for those clients. Don't leave those clients hanging looking for new clients, because especially at the start. And this is why with Iron Society, we want to build it to where coaches don't have to worry about trying to acquire new clients. They'll be coming through, and I will be doing primarily all of the marketing for that. But you need to make sure you need to make sure that those clients are taken care of, because if you're not taking care of those clients, we live in 2023. One bad review can literally derail your entire startup of a business, especially as a new coming on coach. If you have that one negative review where you have 2 or 3 people and you're still over here trying to find new clients, and you neglect these 2 or 3 people, and they're like writing stuff online about how you stood them up at the gym or whatnot, that is terrible for you. That is terrible for you coming into the scene as a new coach, because if you're training in-house, you already know you're a limited area. There's not really much, besides that area that you have as, direct area, there's not really much you can do as far as building a new clientele base, So yeah, 100%. That's right.
Well, that brings us perfectly to our last point, actually. This one.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you have another point?
Oh, I was just going to say maybe 3 is good. I don't know.
No, we're doing the last one.
You're doing the last one? Okay, go ahead.
This is Josh from Train Heroic.
Oh, okay.
How do you pronounce his last name? Sutchar?
Yes.
Hey, fellas, Josh Sutchar from Train Heroic. And the training tip that I give, and this is for myself as much as anybody else, beyond my days actually playing sports and training through high school and college, is get a coach. It's something that I think I took for granted in my early training days, but as an adult, oftentimes that's a place that we don't go, or a place that we don't think we're worthy enough to venture, is to actually hire a coach, whether it's a personal trainer or joining a team, right? Like Forever Strong, where you have somebody that's programming for you, that's holding you accountable. And then secondly, I challenge anybody who's training to track their progress, right? So that you're not just putting the same thing on the bar week after week, that you're using the sound principles of like progressive overload, and you're able to look at that documentation, it stares you in the face as you're training, and it holds you accountable to kind of adding more weight to the bar and pushing yourself. So those would be the two training tips. First and foremost, get a coach. Challenge everyone to get a coach. Is the fastest path to getting to where you want to go, not just in training, but we're talking training. And then secondly, track your progress, so you know how well you're progressing and how far you come.
I wanted to end on that one, since that was a cherry on top of everything that Chris was just saying.
Perfect.
And there was a lot of crossover. But yeah, I mean, I can quickly just attest to the Train Heroic. I know you can, and many of the listeners who are part of Team Forever Strong can. But I've actually integrated it into my physical business, where a lot of my clients who come in person are tracking their workouts. And it's also given us an avenue to prescribe certain corrective sequences. So instead of writing things down on a piece of scrap paper or a note, we have all of our, we have a low back care routine, we have a knee care routine, we have elbow, we have golfer's elbow, we have tendonitis, carpal tunnel. We've created a video series. And, when a new client comes in now, instead of wasting a whole session on corrective exercises, we'll do our assessment, and I'll, onboard them right into Train Heroic. And it gives us the opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to integrate you into our small group training. And at home, I want you to do this 4-week program for your lower back and follow these corrective exercises. The videos are all in there. You can track your progress. And it also allows me to check on you. We can direct message. So 100% not just training. I mean, I'm not even going to touch on hire a coach. I think we're beyond the need to have that conversation. But I do think using an app like Train Heroic, and there's some other ones out there, but phenomenal advice.
Well, I did want to mention that Josh may be the most friendly, nicest guy in the fitness industry that I've ever met. And again, I've been in the industry 25 years. So he was phenomenal getting Joe and I up and running on Train Heroic when we transitioned from the Insiders. So we have this app, Team Forever Strong, Joe DeFranco and I, but it's on the Train Heroic kind of platform. And Josh is phenomenal. And to Obi's point, the app is great. It allows you to put sequences in there. But to what Josh was talking about, just having accountability and tracking your workouts has been just kind of revolutionary. Like old school would be, journals or notebooks.
We used to use notebooks in the gym, and it was the worst. I mean, people, like, you tell someone to do 80% of a 1-rep max, they got to flip 10 pages back and try to figure out what it was.
Exactly. So the app calculates it for you, and it's just a phenomenal app. But yeah, accountability and tracking just is so nice. When you go into the workout, you have the ability to just sequence the workout, sequence the warm up, and just go step by step. And there's the cool thing about the app is it has like timers when you need timers. It does percentages, and it gives videos for every exercise. So it's just phenomenal. But the tracking of your workouts will, to Josh's point, just provide that progression that you're always looking for. And just to, historically give you kind of where you are right now and where you're going,
Chris, you want to tell us about your app?
So yeah, Iron Society, our app basically does the exact same thing. We do percentages based off the individual. And I can't, like Smitty said, I can't stress it even more that like having that step-by-step programming for an individual is revolutionary as far as their progression goes. Because before apps even came out and we literally had like notebooks, it took forever to find out where you were at, what you needed to do next. If you didn't feel good, what should you do for a back off, things like that. But yeah, it's super important. But yeah, no, with Iron Society, we do the exact same thing. We obviously meet the person where they're at. We set up percentages based off of their lifts, and everything is, calculated right within the app, so they don't have to worry about necessarily trying to figure it out themselves. We also have a complete back end. We spend a lot of time talking with our clients, and if they have issues, we have an entire database, just like you do, Obi, with if you have a knee issue, okay, we need to alleviate some pain in your knees. We have a whole protocol for almost every body part, even a postpartum protocol for women. So yeah, we'd like to make sure that we're tackling pelvic floor issues for women. We have a whole thing for that in there as well. For if they have issues with that, they can simply tell their coach, and we can implement that right within their programming. He's 100%. Now, I will say, when I first got into the fitness industry, when I got my pro card as an IFBB pro, I did everything myself. A ton of research went into it, because my biggest thing was if I'm going to coach people, I wanted to be able to coach myself to a high level. Now, granted, I did have a team around me. I had Smitty, I had Pat, I had Adam, all around me. It worked out with those guys almost every day through that entire process. That kept me going when I didn't feel like doing anything. And but hiring a coach,
better. That's almost. Yeah. I'll even throw coaches under the bus, and that's almost better than hiring a coach.
Yeah, without a doubt. Having that accountability is huge, and I can't stress that enough. Having that accountability is huge, but also being able to follow a strict program and documenting yourself through that program is also very, very big. I did hear this. I remember one of my first shows I did. I was backstage as a pro. I did a pro show, and I was talking to one of the guys back there, and he said something to me. He's like, "Listen, man, even Michael Jordan had a coach. The best, the GOAT of the NBA, the GOAT of our lifetime had a coach." So if Michael Jordan can have a coach and a trainer telling him what to do, to think that you're beyond that is kind of ridiculous in a sense. But
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, it's huge. That's definitely something that people need to take into account, especially when they're trying to solicit the results that they need and they want. I always say that no one gets in their car and they just drive around aimlessly. You have a place that you want to go, right? We all have a place that we want to go, and that can relate over to training. You have an idea of what you want, and if you're not tracking, if you're not progressing yourself, you're pretty much just driving around in your car without anywhere to go.
Yep. Right. Well, Chris, thank you for joining us today to chew it up on some of the tips.
I appreciate you dressing up.
Yeah.
You like that?
You wore your best CPPS shirt.
I just came from a workout. What do you expect?
Oh, dude, I didn't even noticed the V-neck. Wait, look up again. Wow.
Dang.
I had to cut
Next level.
Yep. Hey, you have to let that upper chest show,
Was that from neck day, or did you cut that?
No. This shirt was actually a long sleeve shirt before I got to the gym today, and I just burst right out of it.
Happens to the best of us.
Well, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. You've been so busy working on Iron Society, so it's good.
Oh man,
you know what it was is we brought him to Jits, and he's like, "Man, I got to create a new business, so I get busy. I don't have to come back to Jits."
No, I tell you what.
Every time I talk to him, I'm like, "You better get to Jits."
Yeah.
How many times you go? Twice?
I went 3 times.
He came 3 times. I choked him out, and he never came back.
You cheated though.
How did I cheat?
No one wants to talk about. You stood up, dude. We're supposed to start on our knees, and you stood up and tried to choke me. You listen. I'll tell you what.
I just grabbed a hold of that beard, and you started.
It's no shame in getting tapped.
As soon as I tried to roll with Smitty, he went all in. He was all in.
He was
didn't.
Like,
you're not going to beat me today.
You were there.
You probably a little bit of that.
He stood up.
So full of it. Well, they are full of it.
The problem at that time was there was no difference between Smitty going all out and down the back.
Right.
Because he only had one game.
Yeah.
But he's a 1-stripe white belt now, so you got to come back and.
Yeah.
I know. Hey, listen. Dude, you better watch out, dude. He's coming for you.
I know. He's coming.
No, it's going to be a long road, but it's definitely an amazing experience. So I appreciate Obi getting me into it and Adam encouraging me. So.
And I will say, honestly, Shayla which is the CEO of Iron Society, she has put in so much work, dude. She's working 16-hour days on this business. And it's been phenomenal to see it unfold and see what it's coming to be.
You have to send us some screenshots and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
When you guys launch, just come back on and we'll talk about it.
Oh, for sure. That'll be great.
Absolutely.
That'll be great.
And bring her on. I mean, we've been trying to get her on the podcast. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Chris. We appreciate you, brother.
Great job.
Thank you guys for having me.